situations, and they found the joke very funny, that they are actually able to deal with that situation in a comedic light.
Right.
And I commend that bravery. I can only imagine what it takes to get through something like that. But if I can help in any way, even if it was on accident, I feel great about it.
Okay. So part of what you used for calibration was the fact that, as far as you could tell, honestly looking at it, first of all, that you were just trying to be funny, and that joke didn't differ from 1,000 other jokes that you've told.
Yeah.
But also that a marked majority of people agreed with that. It got laughs in the club. Well, that's kind of how you know, right?
Yeah,
people
I
actually
toured
laugh.
that bit for the past 5 months in probably, oh God, 200 cities. I did that joke in, and opened with it and crushed every time, which is why I kept it for the special. Like that's how you gauge a reaction. Look, some jokes won't be funny. I'm currently building a new show right now. I'm doing so many new jokes right now. Some of them will stay, some of them won't stay. You have to gauge. You have to try to figure out what works and what doesn't.
And you have to listen.
You have to listen.
Yeah, okay, so that's good. Well, that's good too, because one of the things, so Freud regarded jokes as a route to the unconscious, like as part of the royal road to the unconscious. Well, the reason for that is that you don't get to decide whether you're going to laugh if it's a genuine laugh. If someone says something that's funny, you'll laugh even if you're embarrassed about laughing afterwards, right? So the funniest jokes are actually the ones where you laugh despite yourself.
Yeah, of course.
Right. Well, but what that shows is that when you tell a good joke, you're striking someone very rapidly and very hard in a part of their being that can't be faked. So there's something dreadfully honest about comedy, because no one laughs at a joke with a real laugh, and you can tell if it's a real laugh, unless the joke is actually funny. And so what that also means is, well, you're telling these jokes and collecting the responses. So you had this domestic violence joke, and you might say, well, that's risky. But that's not the right question. The right question is it actually funny? And another question is, can you rely on the fact that it's funny as an indicator of its moral worth? And I think you can, right? I think that if you tell a joke to repeated audiences and you get a good humored laugh out of that, like a genuine laugh, then that's an indication that you've actually struck the target in the right place. And the people who are complaining about that have more faith in their ideological judgment than they do in the spontaneous reaction of a multitude of people.
Yes.
Right?
But it's entirely, what I love about comedy is it's entirely subjective. And the point is that it makes somebody laugh, right? If it does make one person laugh, it is definitively funny. Just not to the masses, which is totally fine. Obviously, the objective of having a stand-up comedy career is to appeal to as many as you possibly can, but your comedic intentions is if I get a laugh, technically, the joke is funny. Now, it's up to me to listen and gauge the audience to where I go, do I leave it as is and I appeal to this one person, which is technically still not wrong, the joke is still funny, or do I do more work on this joke to properly articulate why I think this is funny and why you should laugh at it to try to get everybody else on board?
Okay, so when you're screening jokes for continued inclusion, you could imagine a joke that, it's like this with pieces of music. There'll be pieces of music that are very, very popular, that spread very rapidly, but that have no legs, right? They're the sort of earworm that you listen to once or twice.
TikTok
it's catchy.
Trends.
Yeah. When you're selecting jokes, I'm wondering, what are your criteria? Can't just be that it makes the most people laugh. Like, I could imagine there are jokes that have a delayed response, and the faster people in the audience catch it. Like,
absolutely.
Okay, so can you tell? How do you determine which jokes you keep? Like, what kind of response are you looking for?
The most amount of laughter is the best possible outcome. However, I don't know how to break this down psychologically, but there's something about comedians that like and response.
Right.
He said the thing
that's
you're
an
not
edgier
supposed
thing.
to say.
Yeah.
And it is funny. Not laugh out loud funny, but oh my God, he said it funny.
Well, that's sort of that's separate from shock value, but like you're pointing out, it's like, I can't believe he had the gall to say that. That's like the gesture in the King's Court, fundamentally, right? Is that you brought to light something that everyone knows or suspects and pointed to it. Right, right. And that is funny that you get an old response like that.
But outrage
Instead of a
is so
joke.
personal too, because that joke about domestic violence, you saw, if you saw the joke for the, I don't know if you saw the whole special or the clip of it, but you saw a laughter reaction, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody
It was clearly
in that
that people
audience,
thought that was funny.
yes, nobody in the audience had a problem whatsoever. If you watch later in the special, I do a school shooting joke that gets a massive response.
And you didn't get canceled for that.
Nobody's talking about that. People only care about the things that offend them specifically. They don't care about hurting somebody else's feelings. Very selfish. I find it entirely selfish. You're gonna let me make fun of other things and make jokes and make light of certain other dark topics. But the thing that affects you personally is the only thing you're upset about. It's very selfish.
Yeah. Well, you got to ask yourself too. If the people that I saw complaining about you, I saw absolutely no evidence in the way they were talking about your joke that they actually were hurt or offended. Whatever they said was, and I've seen this about people complaining on Twitter in particular, or in public. They almost always claim defense on the behalf of hypothetical other people who somehow they're acting as allies for or spokespeople for, which is a little bit on the condescending side to begin with, if you ask me. It's like if they're offended, you know, if a group of women against domestic abuse had conjured up a petition against you, you know, and it was composed of 100,000 sufferers, well, that might be more evidence than some dim-witted TikToker who decided that they were going to be the spokespeople for these hypothetically offended victims.
No,
all the women who feel chained up in the kitchen.
And it's also as simple as just being an easy target. Like, a lot of people just want to not like me, so you give them any inkling of that, and they go, boom, here's a thing I can attack me.
Well, yeah. Well, it isn't only, I think, that they don't want to like you. It's that you blew up relatively quickly. Like, I mean, I know
which isn't my fault.
No.
I would have loved a progressive rise in my career. I didn't know TikTok was gonna do this.
Right. Well, but you did put in the work.
Yes.
You know, it didn't happen. It didn't happen exactly overnight. You said you were in the trenches for what, 5 years before you had anything approximating real success. How long do you think?
Real success.
Well, I know
real success. I would say in stand-up, real success, probably 9 years.
9 years.
Probably
Okay.
9 years,
Okay. So we can't say that you blew up like this, but it wasn't sudden.
No.
Right. It had a very long developmental curve.
Yes,
then,
exactly.
Right. But that's typical. That's typical of success, right? Even if it doubles, say it doubles every 18 months, if it starts at 0, it takes a long time for that doubling to start to actually show.
Yes.
Okay, but what that also meant was that, and this is another problem with social media, is that you had accrued a lot of status capital, right? So your status capital would be directly associated with how many people know you, essentially, and appreciate what you do. And what that means is that hangers-on can now leverage that for their own purposes. And the quickest and easiest way to do that is to complain about you publicly in a way that looks like it's compassionate. Right? Because there's zero effort on behalf of the person who does that. And what they're doing then is stealing some of your accrued social capital. And what's really appalling about that, as far as I'm concerned, is that they're doing that for their own narcissistic ends, which is why they make public statements on TikTok, let's say, in the hope that they'll go viral. And then they also do that while claiming that compassion rather than narcissism is their fundamental motivation. Right.
Yeah, it's
very ugly
it's
game.
Purely clout chasing at its definition. To attach yourself to what somebody else has going on for their own selfish gain. It's so pathetic. You don't have anything else to offer. TikTok is a massive platform of a lot of artistic creators. It's everything from people dancing to philosophers.
Right.
There's so much you can do on there.
Well, you can do anything.
Do any of it without me.
Right,
It's
without
so funny
stealing
to me.
from you, because that's essentially what it is.
And completely lying about who you think somebody is.
Right.
You don't know who somebody is based on a joke they said.
Yeah.
Sarcasm exists for a reason. I didn't mean the thing I said. I said it because it's funny and not what I meant.
So who makes up the bulk of your audience in your life? Is it men or women?
It is women, but I would say it's massively changed over the past, I'd say, 5 or 6 months. When my TikTok status really started to rise at the top of last year, it was wildly predominantly female. I would say my shows from October of last year till about March of this year were like 90%.
Any idea why?
It's anybody's guess. You could say it's my face. You could say it's my humor. I could.
What do you think? What do you think? Well, you play. I watched your crowd work. I mean, you're good at playing with the women who poke at you.
Yes,
you know,
they
and
wanted
you're
to
good
be
at being
roasted. That was a
provocative.
very That was a very specific trend. A lot of women hopped onto. Like a woman would heckle, would yell something out, and that's obviously annoying. So you retort with a mean response comedically.
Yeah.
And this caught on. People were really into that. Like people were coming to shows. Women were coming to shows requesting to be roasted. Now, obviously, I don't mean anything I say. I mean, shut up.
Right,
and stop yelling out at shows.
Right.
But I'm articulating it in a way that, you know, I'm just making some jokes at your expense.
Yeah.
It's caught on so heavily. I think there might be, I don't know if it's a fetish or some kind.
I don't know, maybe it's because you dared to do it, you know?
Maybe
that's possible.
Maybe there's an appreciation for
that's
being
what happens with
bold.
Russell Peters when he's making ethnic
Yes.
jokes.
Do you know
right?
Russell, by the way?
Do I know him?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't know him well, but we've spoken.
I've known him for years.
He's on my podcast.
He's a great guy. I've known him for years.
Russell's great. Great, and he's been unbelievably successful, and he dares to make ethnic
great
jokes
mentor.
to everyone. Yeah, is that right?
Of
that
course.
doesn't surprise me.
And that, by the way, what you just said is wildly important. If you're going to make jokes at a group's expense, you have to be open to making jokes about everybody.
Yes,
Otherwise,
yes.
it does feel targeted.
Yeah, well, and he makes jokes about his own ethnic group more than anyone else's, and they're very pointed and targeted.
Just like
jokes, too.
I make fun of myself probably more than anybody else does. That's what baffles me is when people can't laugh at themselves.
Right.
Nothing makes me laugh harder than when someone's like making good.
Yeah, well, that's the best. That's one of the things I really liked about British humor.
It's
the Brits are so good
dry.
at making fun of themselves.
love it. It's the best. I went over there, I think it was June of this year, May or June. This year feels 3 years. It's sometime late spring, early summer this year. We had a bunch of shows out there. And I fell in love with it. I would love a reason to move to London for like a year to just do comedy out there. The audience.
They have a Comedy Unleashed group there. Well, because the comics in the UK have really come under assault, and a lot of them have been cancelled. And so there's a group in London. Who's this? Andrew Doyle. Andrew Doyle runs Comedy Unleashed. And he has that online person, Titania McGrath, who's a satire of a woke feminist. And he wrote a book by Titania McGrath. And yeah, she's the worst of the woke feminists. Anyways, he started this group called Comedy Unleashed. And I went to just one of their shows so far in London. I actually read a piece that I wrote for my little 2-year-old grandson who was trying all sorts of things on his head, pretending they were hats like old pieces of fish. And so forth. And yeah, but anyways, that when you go to the UK again, they're very much worth looking up. Comedy Unleashed.
I will definitely check them out.
I think the funniest UK comedians are now associated with Comedy Unleashed, and they have these fora in London that are designed to genuinely open discourse events, and you can make a joke about any damn thing you want, and everyone who comes there knows that and appreciates it.
I love that.
Yeah, well, it makes the shows very funny too, as you might
because
imagine.
everyone goes on the same page. Let's just have some fun.
Yeah.
I would love to do a streaming platform like that someday, where creators can go on there, and it's whatever kind of humor you want. Same kind of setup as like a porn website. You go on there, you click 18 and you click 18 and up, right? You know what you're getting into. Same with this website. You go on there, you realize you're gonna hear some crude shit.
Right. Well, you should
in
bloody well know that if you go to a comedy show.
You would think.
Well, you would.
I mean, listen,
think so.
I've never had a problem at a live show, ever. I have never once had anybody stand up and be like, that was not okay to say.
Oh, yeah,
Never.
not
And in
once.
almost 13 years of doing comedy, not once.
Oh, you're obviously not pushing the envelope hard enough.
Jordan Peterson said it first. I love my new hour that I'm working on right now. So much edgier. It blows my mind people chose this one thing to attach themselves onto, and I just think it's
It's gonna redound to your credit, particularly because you didn't apologize. So all that's gonna happen, as far as I can tell, is that this will bring a lot more attention to your work, and people will be thrilled about the fact that you didn't apologize. One of the things that I've noticed repeatedly, because I've gone through repeated attempts to cancel, is that it can be quite an intense experience when in the immediate aftermath of its occurrence, and that's somewhat off-putting and destabilizing because you don't exactly know how far a next spread and what the consequences would be. But if you didn't do anything wrong and you don't apologize, or maybe you make light of it in some creative way, then the probability that it will turn around and flip in your direction, if you can tolerate the weight, is extremely high. And I don't think that part of the reason I'm bringing this up is because I don't think the people who are in the throes of being canceled understand this. 'Cause you could imagine historically, if an angry mob of your neighbors showed up on your doorstep with pitchforks and flames, and there was like 40 of them, it would probably be a good time to think, these people wouldn't have gone to all that time and effort, in all likelihood, had I not done something wrong. Right, but now you can whip up a Twitter mob in no time whatsoever, with no effort, at no cost to yourself, and probably some benefit. And so your instinctual response is to being mobbed or wrong.
Yeah,
right. So
it doesn't translate to the real world.
Right.
I just walked through 2 very packed airports and did nothing but take like 45 pictures.
Right.
Nothing but a positive response.
Have you had any negative responses? You said you had no negative responses to anything you've ever said so far. When you're actually on stage. Yeah. But what about out in the actual world?
Not once, never once has somebody come up to me and said, hey, I didn't like the thing you said. Because that kind of social, I don't know if you want to call it, between a mixture of social awareness and accountability doesn't translate to the real world. People know.
It also takes a lot of gall to do that. To come up to someone and say, you know that thing you said, even though you don't know who they are.
Imagine to a street performer, right? They're playing violin on a street corner. They've got their case out with cash, right? Say you hate violin. Violin drives you nuts. Maybe he's not even good at playing violin. What do? You keep walking, right? No sane, decent human being stops and goes, you're fucking awful, dude. Kill yourself. What are you doing out here? You're making my life miserable until I just look a different direction. That's an insane thing to do. And most people know not to do that. But obviously the internet creates this is what I would believe to be false confidence. And believing that they're safe behind this imaginary source of social media, that they don't face any repercussions because their profile picture is an anime character. And everything's a private profile. There's no consequence for saying what they say.
There's no consequence for leveling an accusation. Yeah, it's really bad.
Versus the real world, if you come up to me, I can have an intellectual conversation with you as to why I disagree with you. Yes. Or I could smack the shit out of you. That is also a consequence that is viable. And that doesn't weigh on anybody on the internet. So it's easier for people to talk shit on me versus the real world where people actually aren't even there. And also, I have to figure most of these people who talk shit on the internet and actually cancel people in their life, they're not out in the real world. Absolutely. So you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, and they definitely have the mentality of like Mean Girl high school bullies. Right? We're going to shame, we're going to reputation savage, we're going to exclude. Those are all.
Go ahead. Put so much energy in your life into thinking about me and how much you don't like me. What a waste of your time.
Yeah. So now you said too that when you posted your response to the criticisms, you posted something I think that's wildly funny, by the way. And so maybe you could explain that to this particular crowd. But you also told me in the intervening time between the 2 podcasts that wasn't a calculated response, that you relied on your instinct for what was funny. So explain what you did.
So funny. You sound like a principal who came here. Tell them what you did.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Lay it out.
So the principal actually loved it. It was perfect. So now I had to convince my parents not to whoop my ass. Basically, this thing happened. There was an outrage over a joke that was wildly misperceived. And that's fine. You're allowed to like or not like a joke. Totally okay. And in response to that, I posted, when you get canceled or somebody is upset about a joke you tell, you're supposed to apologize. People want you to back down and shame you and recognize what you've done. And I don't believe I did anything wrong whatsoever. So it made me really feel like the people who were offended by this were, for lack of better words, and to be quite frank, weak-minded. So I posted a photo of me on stage, with a link at the bottom of it, and the caption was saying, if I've ever offended you with a joke I've told, here's a link to my official apology. And the link description should have been a dead giveaway. It said, click to solve your issue. And when you click on the link, it redirected you to a store,
That's
an
funny.
online
Click to solve your
storefront.
issue. That's funny.
Very specific.
Because it's a little ambiguous.
Of course. And then you click on the link and it redirects you to an online storefront for special needs helmets. I thought this was very funny, and again, misconstrued. People instinctually, again, people get triggered by subject matter than what the joke actually is. Everybody took that as I was making fun of special needs people. No, I don't have anything to say about
So you're
special
making
needs.
fun of people claiming special needs as their emotional disability inappropriately.
Exactly. I'm saying
And quite nice.
you need this way more than they do.
Yeah.
And the best part is that you clicked on it.
They could have special needs earplugs that they could wear in commentaries.
That
You
would
actually
be one.
couldn't
They
hear the
filter out all the
comedian.
words.
Yeah, all of those.
It AI generates what they want to hear. Oh,
That'll
that's
happen
so
soon
genius.
enough. That's right. You'll be able to get an AI.
that's what
an AI sense.
But that's technically what your algorithm is.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
shows you what you want to see. It tells you what you want to hear. The night that I was at the #1 trending thing on Twitter, night before last, I think it was, I texted my friend and I was like, yeesh. And he sent me a screenshot of his. I wasn't even top 25. He goes, this isn't, nobody cares, dude.
Right.
It's in your circle because it's your profile. You're gonna hear about it, obviously, but it's not to the extent that people think. So yes, I posted this misdirect of an apology, and it couldn't have went better. I was literally just sitting passenger seat in a car ride with my friend, and I just thought it would be a funny thing to do. It took me no more than 45 seconds to think of doing that. I went, okay, hey, is this funny? And he cracked up laughing, and I went, nah, fuck it. I also thought that most of the outrage was happening just on Twitter and TikTok. Like, Instagram's a far more personal app, I think. And so the fact that people even saw that and took it to other platforms, I thought was insane, but also proved my point even more that people who don't even like my comedy or have never even heard of me saw the outrage and my response to it and went, oh, that's actually funny.
Right.
So it actually gained me a lot of fans because most of the world, I would feel confident in saying the majority of people are sick of this shit.
Well, most people are actually hoping that a comedian will be funny rather than politically correct. Right, well, this is the problem. I think this is the misapprehension of people who apologize when you're accused, because your case is, well, perhaps you irritated some people by not apologizing, but first of all, there are people that you really don't mind irritating, and they weren't really irritating to begin with, so it's all a lie.
Nor were they fans in the first place.
Right, exactly. And so when you apologize, in principle, you signal to those people that you kowtowed and bowed down, but you forego the opportunity to appeal to a much broader realm of people, which you think would be more sensible if you were trying to protect or develop your career. The people who look at what you've done and think, oh, well, that's funny enough, so maybe I'll go check out this guy that I've never heard of. I'm sure you attracted like 10,000 fans for every person you turned off.
Oh, yeah. Analytically, I have gained more fans than I have lost across all platforms. The extremities of everybody involved in this outrage has been nothing but beneficial, because even if you didn't like the domestic violence joke that I got in trouble for, which is fair, even I think it's not the best joke I've ever written at all. It's probably the worst joke in the special. And that's fine. I do other things. I have plenty of other jokes that are for other people. The response being a perfect example of that. Like, even people go, well, that's not funny, but that joke of his is.
Right.
The extremities are so loud and so against each other that once one group of people, whatever you want to call them, people love to make it about the left or the right or whatever. I'm a very unpolitical person. I don't really use those terms, so they might not be correctly used here. But say the left is so outraged about something, the right instinctually goes, you're being so ridiculous about this. If you hate this, I'm gonna support this because I see nothing wrong with it. So in doing that, they've completely balanced each other out.
Right. Well, right, and you probably brought your work to the attention of a whole demographic that wouldn't necessarily know who you were.
So many people commenting, I didn't know who this kid was. I actually didn't like him before, but I like this joke that he told. Or I dislike you so much that the enemy of my enemy is now my friend.
Right.
Si tuviera acceso al equipo adecuado, podría identificar el ingrediente. hay munición. Mi vida no puede acabar así. Cuando termine de mascarlo, lo escupiré en la tumba de mis enemigos. Es hora de partirles las piernas y la cara. Bueno, es hora de romperles todo, supongo. Lo que hago es demasiado importante para pensar en el fracaso. Este chicle no consigue disminuir mi apetito. Cuando me digan puñetazo en la cara, tengo mucha experiencia en eso. Catalogar estos elixires en formato chicle requeriría un tiempo considerable. De haber sabido lo grandes que se volverían. Hoy vas a pasar hambre.
¡Munición máxima!
Allá vamos de nuevo. ¡Otra vez! vez más! Creo que debería probar esto en uno de los otros.
Doble puntuación.
Debo actuar rápidamente. Muchas barreras se interponen entre nosotros y el éxito. Normalmente suelo ser más selectivo con las cosas que me meto en la boca. Yo no me río ante la adversidad. ¡La mato! En el combate no hay tregua. Me gusta verlos arder. Sé que no hace gracia, pero es gracioso. Me encanta quebrantar las normas, pero la de prohibido tocar sigue vigente. Arrancaré la carne de los huesos. Rudo pero efectivo. Clavadito a Nicolai, la verdad. Días de contar historias sobre mi ¿Estas máquinas me siguen por el espacio-tiempo? Sospecho que ese tal Dr. Monty no tardará en revelar sus auténticas intenciones. No sé si debería escupirlo o tragarlo. Si pudiera hacer que durara un poco más. ¿De verdad creéis que podéis rodear al doctor sin más? Vale, no es lo peor que me he metido en... Creo que esta arma proporcionará una potencia de fuego que a mí me gusta. No pienso ceder. Mi letalidad ya estaba garantizada. Las pruebas médicas de este Gobblegum están en marcha. Aprovecharé todas las ventajas que pueda conseguir. Espero que esto me dé energía para lo que nos espera. No sé si debería escupirlo o tragármelo. Días se contarán historias sobre mi valentía. No vais a detener mis planes. Nadie lo hará. Este chicle no consigue disminuir mi apetito. El doctor receta. ¡Muerto por fuego rápido! Y yo no me río ante la adversidad. ¡La mato! ¡Nine! ¡Emergencia!
Doble puntuación.
La verdad es que tengo un montón de dinero escondido, solo que ahora no puedo acceder a él. Espero que esto me dé energía para lo que nos espera. ¡Cuántos colores! ¡Cuántos sabores!
Traedme sus almas.
¡Empieza la caza! ¡Horrible cálido! ¡Soy tu presa! tú solo. Catalogar estos elixires en formato chicle requeriría un tiempo considerable. ¡Sí! Ahora los vamos a llenar de agujeros. ¡Agujeros de bala! ¿A qué pensabais que me refería? Si quiero proseguir con mi trabajo, debo encontrar munición. ¿Qué clase de doctor receta golosinas? Gritad todo lo que queráis. No os va a servir de nada. Un día se contarán historias sobre mi valentía. Vaya, andaba buscando eso. Cuando termine de mascarlo, lo escupiré en la tumba de mis enemigos. Arriba hay alguien que me quiere. ¡Esfúmate, horrible cánido!